now joined by none other than Dino Wilkinson. Dino's a partner at Baker McKenzie. He's joined us live here on the sofa. Really appreciate your time and for giving us a little legal advice for this particular topic, because we've got the Child Digital Safety Law incoming, the new Child Digital Safety Law. Before we get onto that, let's talk about what exists at the moment and some of the gaps that maybe the new laws are looking to fill.
Sure. Certainly. Well, the UAE does protect and recognise the safety of children in various different laws at the moment. So we have, from a domestic abuse scenario, the Child Protection Law, WADIMA's law, was introduced a few years ago to protect children within the home. There are references in sort of data, cyber, media laws around offences related to children, child exploitation and that sort of thing. But I think what the key gap in that was around the sort of growing risks online. So online safety, the potential for exploitation of children, the potential for harm, for cyberbullying. And we didn't really have anything in that space until the end of last year when the new Child Digital Safety Law got published.
For a parent watching this, what's the key thing they should take away?
So, interesting, the UAE's Child Digital Safety Law creates obligations on parents. Now, we don't know how these are going to play out. The law has just been published and we're expecting some regulations to follow. But most laws of this nature around the world focus on the platforms, the digital platforms, online companies. The UAE does look at platforms, it looks at ISPs, but it also focuses on caregivers, so parents and guardians, placing obligations on them to monitor what their children are doing while respecting their digital independence, appropriate to their age, to report unacceptable material, harmful content that they find online, that the parents find online, and various other obligations that, as I say, we don't quite know how they will play out for parents, but they are certainly aimed at raising awareness among parents, caregivers around what their children are doing online.
So parents are definitely engaged in this with this legislation.
Yes, yeah, very much so.
So going back to the law itself, who does it apply for, and what are the main requirements for it?
Sure. So the law, I guess, primarily applies to digital platforms. So this is any platform providing digital content or messaging communication services that either is operated from the UAE, from within the UAE, or targets people in the UAE. So those platforms have obligations including age verification. They've got to verify their users. There are more restrictions on what they can do with children's data, and here we're talking about under 18s as children. But particularly for under 13s, there's extra restrictions on how their data can be used, preventing things like tracking and targeting ads for under 13s. There are some potential exemptions for healthcare and education platforms. They might get an exemption if they're doing something vital there. There'll be a requirement to introduce age verification by these platforms depending on the sort of risk category that their platform falls into. So this is going to be a new development that we are waiting to see perhaps later this year, the sort of risk classification system that the UAE sets up. And depending on the content, the target audience of a platform, it will fall within a certain risk category, and then it will have to apply certain measures.
Dino, I really want to know what's actually going to change for families. Is this going to change the way kids use the digital space in general, and how much onus is on us parents to keep an eye on that?
I think it will change children's experience, hopefully in a positive way, of using the internet here in the UAE. It should introduce more tools. So platforms and ISPs will be obliged to include parental controls, to take more account of caregivers' instructions and desires in relation to their children. They'll also have to implement things like content filtering and age verification. So those steps should make it a safer internet for our children. But it comes with obligations, and the law recognises that all stakeholders have a part to play, not just the platforms, not just the ISPs, but also parents, caregivers. They will be required to keep an eye on children's behaviour online, to monitor what they're doing, and also to report any harmful content that they come across online.
I find it interesting, this sort of tiered approach as well, because I immediately thought okay, under 18s. But then, yeah, you're quite right. Any child from 13 up to 18 is going to be a lot more engaged online than maybe somebody under 13. And the fact that they are making some of the data available more strict for under 13s. But what does that look like in practice?
It will be interesting to see how it plays out. We might see that for some platforms may decide actually the restrictions are too much and we can't implement significant we can't implement age gates or other mechanisms to monitor whether a child's under 13 or it's too complex or expensive for us, and so we won't allow under 13s at all. So you might see that some services are require sort of age verification at an older level. But I think, as you say, it does recognise that there is a difference between a 13-year-old and an 18-year-old. In fact, the UAE laws only recently changed to bring the age of majority down from 21 to 18. This law follows that as well, in line with the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. The age is set at 18 generally. But I think what we'll see in the risk classification system that comes out is nuances between platforms that are aimed at perhaps younger children and those that are aimed at older children, those that may be supervised, those that may be unsupervised, and different criteria to establish appropriate levels of restriction that are appropriate for the use.
Ever since this law came out, I have so many questions about it, and the law places the responsibility not just on the parents but also the platforms. So my question to you is, where does the line sit?
I think it's shared responsibility, and I think that's what the law is kind of showing us, is that this doesn't just sit with one stakeholder, but the whole group of stakeholders, whether it's companies, platforms, ISPs, or caregivers. Everybody has an obligation to safeguard children, to look out for children, and to make sure that their use of the internet is safe and that they're protected from harmful content.